What's going on, guys? Marco here with Dynasty Nerds, and I am bringing you my trade targets for Week 7. All right, guys, so I've got 4 trade targets and a little bit of a bonus that I want to throw out there for you guys. We're going to be talking Dynasty and redraft. I've got kind of 2 of each, along with a little special bonus at the end there that I want to talk about for our Dynasty managers out there. But before we jump into any of it, I want to remind you, subscribe to this YouTube channel. We've got tons of content coming out regularly. You get tons of my content. You get the podcast content. We might even have some more on the horizon for you in season, off season. Everything you need to build your dynasty rosters, to win in your redraft leagues, to set your lineups and more. So make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and if you want 15% off joining the Nerd Herd, get access to the GM tool, the extra podcast episode, click the link in the description below, or use promo code 14P, that's the number 14P at sign out, and you will get 15% off all of that amazing extra content, so you do not want to miss out on it. I want to also remind you to follow me on Twitter at Marco_14P. DMs are always open for any questions you might have, whether it be dynasty, redraft, everything in between, and I am happy to help out however I can. Okay, guys, so let's jump into it. My first trade target, and this is for Dynasty Leagues. I want to put that in big, bold letters. Dynasty Leagues, Dynasty Leagues, Dynasty Leagues. J.K. Dobbins. He has shown that he is really, as much as he has recovered, his body is not ready for the NFL season. He is banged up. You know, his knee tightened up on him last week, which made people who went and put him in their starting lineups really upset with his production. He wasn't on the field very much. And so ultimately what you need to remember with ACL injuries is that year 1 is basically a year where they can get on the field, and sometimes when it's an injury or an ACL injury that wasn't quite as severe, didn't happen in the same way as J.K. Dobbins, they can be productive. But really, year 2 is where you see the fully healthy player. That's what we're seeing in Saquon Barkley right now. And obviously, J.K. Dobbins is a very different player than Saquon Barkley, but that's the kind of value that he can have in year 2 after this season. He can be involved in the passing game more than people think. He can be involved in the running game. Of course, I think he's one of the better rushers in the NFL when he is fully healthy. So if you are a rebuilding team or a team that's like on the verge of contending, but you know that this year probably isn't your year, I would go and make some offers. Talk to the manager who owns J.K. Dobbins, who is probably desperate for a running back or someone who can help fill one of their flex spots to get them to closer to a title. And right now, there's tons of things that you can offer. It's hyper roster dependent, hyper format dependent. There's so many things. And, you know, on some of these videos, I like to give some potential trade packages that you can offer for these guys, but it's really, really hard to navigate every single different format and roster and lineup construction. So please drop your questions below. I've been answering every single question I see on our YouTube, but I've also been leaving my DMs open on Twitter at Marco_14P. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter, tweet at me, message me, whatever you want to do, and I will get to those. I'll probably get to those a little bit faster than YouTube because I just see them sooner. So please hit me up with questions around trades for J.K. Dobbins in your Dynasty League. Now, of course, I haven't forgotten about my redraft players. So this trade is a trade target for both redraft and Dynasty. I'm going to break it down for you why you should be making a move for Detroit Lions tight end TJ Hockenson. So the reality is TJ Hockenson, he's not been spectacular in 2022, but he's still the tight end 5 in full PPR leagues. And he is not really, it's not like the old tight end 5s that we've been looking at where, you know, tight end 5-6 is really the cutoff and then it kind of just plummets. The tight end position as a whole has just been absolutely brutal this year outside of, you know, Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce. And that being said, this has presented a really nice buy window for TJ Hockenson. In your redraft leagues, he is getting enough work where he is a viable play, one of the very few viable plays at tight end. Like I said, he's tight end 5 on the season. I think that that is likely to continue. I don't think he falls out of the top 5 tight ends this year because of what this team is doing, because of what their defense is doing, because of what their offense is doing. You know, they're letting up near in the top 3 in the league, letting up the most points in the NFL, or in the top 3 in the league in the NFL. And that means that their offense has to be going, you know, the entire game, the entire 60 minutes. And that is, and it's an offense that has been showing us that they can produce fantasy numbers, you know, at multiple positions, even with Jared Goff. So in redraft leagues, I think TJ Hockenson is a really nice buy. in Dynasty leagues, he's a phenomenal buy because I don't think he falls outside of the top 5 tight ends, especially if they do add their quarterback of the future in 2023. The reality is that it will almost definitely be an upgrade for TJ Hockenson and the entire offense of the Detroit Lions, because they've got all of their guys set for their core of the future. They've got their offensive line set. They just need that quarterback. So TJ Hockenson is an enormous buy in redraft and Dynasty League. Now, again, I don't want to throw out a ton of different trades, but there is a trade that I saw recently go down in a Dynasty League that I thought was really, really interesting. I saw Travis Kelce go for TJ Hockenson and a 2023 first. Now, I know if you are a contender, you're not likely to be trading away Travis Kelce, and I don't recommend that you do it if you are a contender this year. But if you're one of those teams who's kind of floating on the fringes, you're kind of a contender, but you're more of a pretender than anything, or you're a team that's really building towards the future, and you have Travis Kelce, see if you can go get TJ Hockenson and a 2023 first. Even if you have to add like a 2024 second to the deal, I'm okay with that trade too. Because again, I think TJ Hockenson is likely to be a top 5, maybe top 6 tight end in Dynasty leagues because of how this offense works, where they have holes on their defense. They're only going to be probably adding pieces to their defense and a quarterback, and I think that sets up a really, really nice opportunity for TJ Hockenson to be a Dynasty and redraft buy, for a while. The third guy that I think you should be buying is a guy that has broken my heart along with many, many fantasy analysts' heart in 2022, but it's Elijah Moore. Let me break down what Elijah Moore's done this season. He has been on the field for over 85% of the snaps. He has been running routes on a majority of the snaps he's on the field. He has been actually getting open a fair amount as well, but the reality is when Zach Wilson leads this offense, his number 1 and number 2 options aren't the wide receivers, which makes no sense. But ultimately, Elijah Moore has already been on social media. He's been saying all these things. He doesn't want to be the bad guy, but he's not happy with the situation. And I'm sure Garrett Wilson is soon to follow. Both of these guys were very complimentary of Joe Flacco in the offseason. So we don't know exactly what the Jets are going to do, if Zach Wilson is going to be the guy they stick with. But this is a team that is built for the future. They don't know if they have the quarterback situation figured out yet. I personally think Zach Wilson is probably a replacement level quarterback at best. So we don't know, again, the long-term answer at quarterback for the Jets yet, but we do know that Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore are both insanely talented pass catchers. Even though their numbers might not show that to you right now, and even if Elijah Moore's have shown you that he is just absolutely not a fantasy option in 2022, if you are a rebuilding team and a contender or a team that's in the top 5 or 6 says, hey, I am willing to move on from Elijah Moore, please go make an offer for this guy. I'm not offering a 2023 first, but if you're looking at picks, I think 2023 seconds, a package of them are on the table. I think there's definitely some players that I'm okay moving on from. There's a lot of contenders who I think have been really buying into what I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, in Amari Cooper being a valuable asset for a contender this year. So if you have Amari Cooper and you can go get a guy like Elijah Moore, I would see if you can get Elijah Moore plus, because that's the reality of his value right now in 2022. So if you're in a dynasty league and you think you can build for the future in the next couple of years, go get Elijah Moore right now. The next guy on my list is Rashod Bateman. Obviously, he's been dealing with a mid-foot injury. He hasn't been playing. He hasn't been practicing. And that has created another buy window. Even when he was on the field, he was really kind of like a touchdown-dependent wide receiver too, which is not an exciting position to be in, but there is a lot of talent behind Rashod Bateman. He came in profiling very similar to like an Allen Robinson type of player. He's a really, really good route runner. He's an athletic player. He does incredible things after the catch. So Rashod Bateman is a guy who is definitely depressed in value right now that I am buying in both redraft and dynasty leagues. Redraft leagues, I think you're probably stuck with a touchdown-dependent wide receiver too when he's healthy, but that's okay. I think that can still help you win championships, especially if you don't have to pay wide receiver 2 value for him right now in redraft. He's going to get on the field sometime probably in the next 1 to 2 weeks, depending how serious that mid-foot injury is. So right now, Rashod Bateman is a guy I am buying in both dynasty and redraft leagues. In dynasty leagues, I'm not paying, again, similar to Elijah Moore, I'm not paying a 2023 first for him, but I don't think you have to in any capacity. And in redraft leagues, there's plenty of options that I'm okay moving right now for Rashod Bateman. When you look at redraft leagues right now, there's a guy who has been performing really well that I really like as a talent in Brandon Ayuk. that I would see if you can trade Brandon Ayuk for Rashod Bateman and like a depth piece that can help you compete late season. And those are the options that you're probably looking at. And it might not feel great right now, but again, in a week or two, Rashod Bateman could be someone who is regularly outproducing guys like Brandon Ayuk, who is the wide receiver 2 on that team. My last trade target, and it's an asterisk here, it's a special, it's a bonus for the video, it's a trade away. If you are in a dynasty league, now this is dynasty specific, of course. If you are in a dynasty league, you want to be trading away these touchdown dependent RB2s. I'm thinking of guys like Ezekiel Elliott. He's got 2 great matchups ahead, so you might be able to capitalize in a couple weeks, but I'm starting to field offers for guys like Ezekiel Elliott right now in dynasty. Najee Harris, unfortunately, especially where you drafted Najee Harris, unfortunately, that's what he is in this offense right now. He's a touchdown-dependent RB2. A.J. Dillon, at best, is a touchdown-dependent RB2 because the Packers' offense is absolutely atrocious right now. And a guy who just scored a touchdown, who's got a lot of hype. He's seeing plenty of rushing opportunity in his first 2 games, Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson, with the hype that he's got right now, if you can flip Brian Robinson for a late 2023 first, if you can flip him for a pair or, a pair or more of 2023 seconds, those are the kinds of moves I'm okay making. If you can flip any of these touchdown-dependent RB2s in your dynasty leagues for extra assets, for young wide receivers who haven't really had their moment yet, I am doing it right now because there is not a more replaceable position, especially in dynasty leagues, than a touchdown-dependent RB2 or your RB2 in general, but especially the guys who are really the early down backs who fall into the end zone. Those are the guys I'm selling. All right, guys, that is it for our trade target video. So don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Marco_14P, subscribe to our YouTube, and be kind, do good. I'll see you next time. Peace.